So we are back with another episode of You're Fucking Welcome, and it feels like a really important and a really exciting episode because this is the first one that I am recording live in front of a studio audience. I keep saying that to myself. I keep thinking of like Cheers or like these like older sitcoms where they would say that at the beginning of the show. But I am recording this right now on Zoom with my You're Fucking Welcome Insiders community for the very first time. And like, when I was thinking about what to talk about today and what to share and how to share, like the only thing that it really feels like it makes sense to talk about is the concept of doing things your way and allowing so much of this process to be messy, right? Because it is messy and it's messy at every stage. And I know I talk about that a lot. I know it's not as though it's the first time that I've ever said that, but I feel like I feel like you guys know about me that I'm not somebody who is interested in pretending that like you make X amount of dollars and now business is perfect, or you get to a certain stage and like you have everything figured out, right? There's always these new stages of growth. There's all these new little stories and ego trips that can really screw you up, right? Because, you know, transparently, I'm sitting here again, doing things my way, which obviously we're going to talk about, but it has taken me a really long time to give myself permission to be like, I don't want a professional camera crew in my home doing this like via video for the sake of the podcast, just because I feel like I make quote unquote enough money to be able to do that. I don't want to do that, right? Like that doesn't feel good and aligned to me to worry about, you know, getting Ellie to daycare and, you know, having people come in and out of my home and making it this big production. I don't like that. I like simplicity. And so the idea that I'm kind of hacking this, if you will, to be able to kind of check off all the boxes and kind of be a little bit in each world, right? Where like I get to do what I want to do. I get to record the podcast. I get to have it be like this video version. I get it to be, I have an opportunity to have it be a little bit more interactive and a little bit more live and all of that, but in a way that actually feels aligned with who I am and what I want and how I want to live. And again, I'm saying that because it has taken me quite a while to give myself permission to do that, right? Because if we think about this, I could have done this a year ago. I could have done this a long time ago, right? Like it's not as though the equipment, anything like that wasn't in place already, or it wasn't a situation as though I didn't know how to do any of it, but I thought I had to. I thought I should do it somebody else's way. I thought success meant it had to look, again, a little bit more professional. I thought not more professional, but like I thought that I should get a studio or like rent a space. I don't want to go somewhere every single morning that I'm recording. Like, I don't want to do that. And so again, I'll say it again, that like, it has taken me quite a while of like knocking down a lot of the walls or knocking down a lot of the reasons that I felt as though I had to do what I wanted, but somebody else's or another way, right? And I've shared this before. I've shared this several times lately, but I feel like part of the reason that I've had like, I don't know, a wonky, because I don't want to say I struggled, because we haven't struggled over the past year and a half, but certain things have felt a little bit more wobbly than I've been used to. And it's not from a place of like, oh, I'm trying to sell this thing and it's not working and why is it not working? It's been more from a place of like, I've kind of rewritten the rules for myself and I've allowed myself to, I feel more confident and more certain in myself, right? And what I want to do than ever before. And what I mean by that is I really feel so clear and calm that like, if I want to like be an astronaut tomorrow, like I can be a fucking astronaut tomorrow. Like whatever I put my mind to, I can do and I can do successfully. And that being such a new feeling for me, it's kind of knocked me off a little bit because I'm like, okay, well then what do I really want? I can do anything. How do I want to do all of this, right? And so that has felt a little bit difficult for me over the past year, I guess year and a half or so. And so I say all of that because I've had to kind of like reestablish the way business works for me. And I've had to let go of a lot of like the rules and the systems and the way that I thought things had to be. But what I keep coming back to over and over again, and what I know is true, is that every single time I decide that I want to do something. And every single time I decide, like, this is how it gets to go for me. And there's really this conscious choice to not even entertain that it couldn't work and not entertain the idea that I could be wrong. That's when things work, right? That's when things work. And so I know it's such a cliche and simple thing to say, like, you get to do things your way. And that's fully true. That's totally true. But the important part here is that you believe in it and that you're certain in that way. It's really about not entertaining the concept that, like, you could be wrong, right? And so as we launch this new community, as we launch this new way of doing the podcast, I'm really okay with the fact that I don't have it all figured out right now. As we got on, as the community members know, like, I got on here and I'm like, this is probably going to be messy. There might be some tech issues. There might be some struggles along the way. Things might go wrong, and I'm navigating this, and how all of this is going to work out is not super clear to me yet. And I'm sure we'll make a bunch of adjustments and things like that. But what I know is that this is how I want to do things. And so we're going to keep adjusting, and we're going to keep pivoting, and we're going to keep shifting until they work and until they feel as aligned as I want them to. And that's it. There's no looking back. There's no concept of, like, I could have made a mistake, right? I know I talked about this on the pivoting episode, but I feel like what so many people do incorrectly, and I've done it certainly, is that let's say they decide that they want to close their Facebook group or whatever it is, and then they do it, and then it's like a week later, well, did I make a mistake? Was that the wrong thing to do? And certainty is about you choosing that, like, this is the way that I want things to go. And the concept that I could be wrong is not even something I'm going to entertain. And I'm not going to spend any time whatsoever looking in the rearview mirror being like, did I fuck this up? Did I make the wrong move? Because you made the decision, right? We have to choose to kind of move on with the decision and trust the decision instead of, again, thinking about going backwards. And so again, I'm saying that because, like, I know I said this in the last episode, but, like, I'm sure to many people, closing a Facebook group, doing podcasts on Zoom, right? Like, that might not seem like that big of a deal. But, like, in so many ways, I'm, like, burning down everything that I have had, right? Like, burning down the business that I have had, or letting go of things that have worked really well for me. And that is certainly scary, right? Like, that is a scary thing. And I see so many people stay in relationships, stay in business models, right? Because they believe that, like, this is the way that things have been. And so, like, navigating away from that would be failure, would be doom, would be something where I was completely screwing everything up, right? And so I get that. Of course I get that, which is why, like I said, it took me a while to kind of figure out exactly how I wanted to do things. But this way, as I move forward, right, feels so exciting to me, and it feels so good to me. And so the concept that I could be wrong is just something that I'm choosing to not even navigate for a moment, right? And again, I'm saying all of that because I want to remind you of how important that is. And so with all of that, right, every little thing in your business, I want you to understand that I know you've heard a million times, but there are no fucking rules. There are no rules. Like, there are no rules that say the Facebook group has to be free. There are no rules that say you have to sell one thing at a time. People, coaches, whoever you have listened to have shared their rules because of what has worked for them. But so much of it is not factually true. It's based on one's belief, right? Like, I'm sure that I have said things like things have to be this way, right? Because those are my beliefs. But I want to say also that, like, the way that I have seen things or the way that I have done things is not the universal truth for each and every one of you, right? Like, you have to navigate and you have to adjust based on what makes the most sense to you. And so again, I want hopefully this to be kind of like a step for, like, me, but also more importantly for you in the direction of you get to really be as unique and you get to choose to lead in your way and blaze a trail, right? And really kind of navigate how you want to, even if it is a situation where a coach that you have worked with or the people who you have watched online, whatever it is, even if they haven't done things that way, you can choose that, like, I choose that this is how things get to go for me. I choose that I get to make a shit ton of money and I never work with a high-end client, or I only work with high-end clients, or I have 2 clients a year and that's all I work with. And I don't care if nobody else is doing it this way. I don't care if my coaches aren't doing it this way. I don't care if I've been told that this way doesn't work. If I feel in my heart of hearts that like this makes sense, this is what I desire, this is the vision that I have, I want you to get so firm in that vision. And that so often takes intentional practice. It's not you deciding one time and then waking up the next day and being in doubt and like then making yourself wrong for being in doubt. No, that's when you're going to sit for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever it is, and get re-anchored again in the vision of what you actually want to do and why you, in fact, get to have it your way for your business, right? And I really just feel like I was talking about this with a client not long ago, but it's like, I think you'll hear a lot of people say things like, fast, messy action, right? Like to take that fast, messy action. And that is true. You'll also hear other coaches say to plan, be strategic, make sure you're clear before you make a move. And that's also true, right? And I have preached both of those things. But the difference is, and I think this is important, is that the difference is again, like this whole community thing, like came to me midweek last week or maybe like Monday, Tuesday, like it was something that it felt so right and it felt so aligned that we moved on it right away. And here we are, a week later and it's up and running. We took that fast, messy action that way. I have not planned out all of the other steps, which is not normally like me. Normally I do figure out the steps and the strategy and what comes next. And is this intentional, right? But the difference is it sounds so basic to say, but this feels good in the sense that it came through and it felt so right. It felt like home. It felt like, oh, of course that's the way that we do things, right? It's hard for me to explain, but it's like this fluid feeling that I get that everything is just smooth and it just flows. And I'm just like, oh, of course that's the way that it gets to go. Versus there have been moments in my business where I have taken fast action, but from a complete place of fear, right? Totally from a place of like, there were days when like I had to get the sale. And so I would throw something out there with half-assing it or not, putting my full effort into planning out the program, so on and so forth. And so again, I'm saying that because I want you to recognize that there's such a big difference between taking fast action that's aligned and fast action that's based out of fear. Right? You know yourself. You know what feels like you. It's not always easy to tell. It's easy to sometimes second guess, like, well, is this really me? Or is this really what I want? Or is this scary? Or am I doing this because I'm scared? And again, I think at every level, those questions are going to pop up. And again, I feel like always like I'm a Debbie Downer saying that to you. And it's almost like I'm supposed to say the opposite. Like, no. Once you reach, $20,000 a month or $20,000 a day, whatever the fuck, right? Like, no, then you're never going to second guess yourself again. And I don't see that as true. I don't see that as a possibility. I think you're always going to have those moments because you are somebody who is dedicated to growing, right? Like you're somebody who always wants to grow. So therefore the growth with each and every step you take into that is going to be a little bit uncomfortable and you're going to have to deal with the discomfort of that. And again, kind of checking yourself and questioning yourself. But it is a situation where, again, you get to know yourself even better so that you can recognize what is fear and what is not, right? And like, I'm saying all of that because what I want for myself and what I want for you is there to be such deep trust in what you actually desire that when a desire comes through, especially when it comes to your business, you know intuitively that it's something you want to act on versus, again, the questioning that so often happens of like, is this the right move or is it stupid to move too quickly, right? Like I want you to, again, be able to trust yourself faster in that way. And it's similar. Somebody had asked, because it's part of the community, I'm asking you guys to give me, just what you want to hear about on the podcast and any particular topics you want to hear me chat on, all those kind of things. And somebody had asked about like moving quickly on an idea and not procrastinating, right? It's this interesting thing, but I've used the example. Did you guys see I think I said this before, but the video of that woman where she went into her backyard and there I don't remember if it was multiple bears or just one bear, but the bear was coming after her dogs in the backyard and she like ran outside, grabbed the dogs, ran back inside, pushed the bear off the ledge, whatever it was. When there's that adrenaline there, right? There's no space to hesitate, right? If your child fell in the pool, you're not sitting there overanalyzing, well, am I going to get wet? Is the water too cold? Like there's no hesitation, right? Like you're jumping into it because it's your natural instinct. And it's kind of the same thing that I'm saying here is like, if something comes through to you in your business that feels natural and that feels right? I want you to give yourself the gift of not hesitating and not giving yourself space to procrastinate and allowing the fears and the stories and what could go wrong kind of pop into your head. And again, allowing yourself to just move and move quickly. If I had overanalyzed this for I don't know, any amount of time, I would have been in the place that I was expressing before. Well, I really should have like more professional video, or I really should do this, or, nobody else has, again, like paid community. So is this a really dumb move on my end? If I gave myself the space to hesitate, the fears and the stories and the hesitation, right, would therefore come through because I gave myself the space for that. But again, because this felt as soon as I felt it, it felt right. It felt aligned. It felt like something that felt fully like me, and then it made sense. And again, there's just this home feeling in it, right? And so I chose to move quickly on it. And so I hope you're hearing me here where I'm saying that fast action is good, and it's okay if it's messy action. It's okay if it's not exactly perfect. It's okay if you don't have, a million steps after it figured out quite yet. All of that is okay. But when it is something that feels so, again, like home to you and so natural to you and organic to you and like something, like I just really like, it's like, if we think about like sexual attraction for a moment, right? It's like, you don't have to convince yourself that you are sexually attracted to somebody. You're pretty clear on that, right? Like visually and energetically. It's not a situation, I would imagine, where the goal certainly is not for you to have to convince yourself, well, okay, I kind of like bald guys or whatever it is, right? Like you're not sitting there having an argument with yourself or kind of like making a case for it. When you see someone, if there's actually that attraction there. Of course, attraction builds, but you know what I mean? Like you're not coming from a place of having to convince yourself, right, that you are, again, attracted to something. And it really is the same thing in my experience, in my opinion, with so much of this business stuff. When something comes through for you, when you see somebody else doing something, and it is truly an aligned desire. It feels like, oh, like that is like a vision I have, right? Like I know that is a vision. I know that is something that I want. I want just more of you, more of us to honor that and to honor that more quickly and to allow the messiness that might come through, right? But when it's what you want, the mess isn't that big of a deal. Right? Like we're going to, again, like I said, there's going to be troubleshooting. There's going to be tweaking. There's going to be some things that we need to change in this process. Like I'm just being fully transparent. Like I got a little bit more nervous than I expected myself to on this episode. And like, I'm not sure if I'm in love with it right now. And that's okay. Like I'm going to allow that to be okay and model that for you, if you will. Because it's what I want, right? It's what I want. And I trust myself to navigate and to tweak, like I said, and edit and shift a little bit as we move forward in the name of a desire. And so again, all of that to say, I feel like the purpose of this episode for me, for you, is to honor your desires, which I feel like is really just the running thread through every episode. But like, it's okay if the things that you want to do your way aren't as simple or as neat or as perfect upon starting. As perfect as you'd probably want them to be or as figured out as you'd want to be, that's okay. But the more that you can own and honor what you want for your business and take fast action on that, like that creates so much momentum. And the other thing I'll say, obviously I know that so many of you have heard the story a million times about February 2017, I was just ready to blow up my business, right? Like I was ready to go live every single day. And I thought about it for like 2 months. Like I would sit there. I remember so specifically sitting like on the couch every single day being like, okay, but tomorrow, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that I didn't do anything again today. Tomorrow I'm going to start, and tomorrow I'm going to create that momentum, and then I'm going to do it every day moving forward. So I'm going to create so much momentum that it's okay if I don't do it today. And every single day I would sit there and let reasons pop into my head and like fear pop into my head that held me back and that essentially didn't push me or allow me to do things, right? But once I did it, it was a situation where it wasn't overthought. It was just me moving every day, just the choice to move every single day. And so it's hard to explain because it's like it's such an energetic difference. But even if I look again back at that period of my life, it wasn't a situation where I was like, I'm going to hustle and I'm going to work as hard as possible and I'm going to go live every single day, even if I hate it. But this is what I have to do because this is what the experts say I have to do. It didn't feel like that. It was just like, I'm about to create a shit ton of fucking momentum and I'm just going to move. And it's okay, again, if every single video is not perfect. I was talking to my personal trainer about that because, you know, we talk about business and all of those kind of things. And, you know, she naturally has some fears around, you know, getting it right or so on and so forth. And I was like, that's like me sitting here getting upset because I didn't do this move perfectly, right? It's not about this particular move in this particular set. It's about the collective effort that we're making overall, right? All of this is about the momentum that you can create overall in your business. And so the fast action doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to feel aligned and it has to feel like you, and you'll navigate the imperfections as you go, right? But holding back and allowing time or space to kind of seep in where, again, those hesitations are those fears come through, that's what's going to create the procrastinating, and that's what's going to keep you from creating the momentum that's possible for you. So again, do things your way. I want you to allow things to be messy, and more than anything, honor how you want to do things. And if you feel aligned with a way, with a method, with a strategy, whatever it is, right? Or a course, program idea, whatever the fuck it is, if it feels aligned and natural to you I keep using the word honor, but honor that, and not like it was really truly just like a line in the sand moment. I'm not entertaining the idea that this couldn't work. I'm not entertaining the idea that like this could be wrong. I'm not entertaining the idea that like, again, somebody else said this is going to work. Fuck that. Fuck that. This is how I choose things get to go for me. And that's all there is to it. That's it. That's it. That's it. That's it. And you'll navigate as you go. So that's what I wanted to say today. I'm going to open up the chat box in case anybody has any specific questions or things to share on this particular topic. Michelle said, when you honor your process, do you find the clarity comes? Absolutely. Because when you honor your process, in my experience, in my opinion, it works. When it works, clarity comes because confidence comes, right? Like, again, if we go back to 2017, I knew that if I was showing up all the time, I would make more money, but I also didn't actually know. Right? Like I didn't actually know. I'm not a psychic. It could be very possible that it wouldn't actually work for some reason, right? But it was still like this, like in this intuitive gut feeling that like, this is how I want to do things. And it sounds so cheesy, but I always call it like the Tinkerbell effect. That very first video that I did, feeling like I had people on live with me, right? Feeling like I had people who were resonating with my message and being like, yes, like, thank you for saying this, so on and so forth. That created confidence and certainty in what I was doing. And then, because clarity is really a confidence thing, right? Clarity, like if we're saying that we're unclear, most of the time, we're unclear that something's going to work. But like when you're being given confidence, right? If you're feeling in that moment like, oh, this is working, the concept that then it couldn't work diminishes a little bit because you're seeing evidence of the fact that it clearly works, right? And so I think as a general rule with anything, doing things against our, I don't know, our highest desire or against our natural instincts is what often keeps us back from getting the results that we want, right? If you know, right, like I don't know, a strategy is not for you. You know that you don't want to sell high end. You know that you don't want to do sales calls, but you're doing them. It's, again, in my experience, in my opinion, always going to be a situation where that's not working out for you the best that it possibly could, right? Whereas, like, again, if we go back to 2017, which I don't want to keep talking about, but it feels so, it was such like a big shift, as you guys know, in my business, where like everybody up until that point in my business, there's not a single person or a coach or anything in my life, in my business life, that would have told me that selling low-end things was a good idea. Nobody thought that that was a good idea, right? But like, I knew myself in that moment that I was not emotionally or energetically equipped to take on clients. I knew that I didn't want people super close to me in that way. I knew that I didn't want to have to hunt down, one-on-one clients till the end of time and guess the way in which like the next client was going to come in. I knew I didn't want any of that. I knew that like people paying me $97, $197 easily felt so right for me in that moment, right? And so I knew the way that I wanted to do things. I knew like deep down how I wanted to do things. It took a lot of time and energy to honor that, right? Because I feel like let me say it this way, because I feel like sometimes when a lot of people talk about this, and maybe when I talk about this, it can almost feel as though like honor what you want to do, and then the money will come raining out of the sky and your business will be transformed overnight and, all those kind of things. And of course not. But it was like this kind of situation where, again, if I'm like, okay, but I really want to do it this way, I'm going to start doing it this way. And then that was like one step. And then, 5 people were on my live and it really resonated with them. And that it seemed like it felt really good to them. That made me feel more clear that like, this could really work. It made me feel a little bit more confident. And I'm talking a teeny tiny turn of the dial there. Like it wasn't like, okay, now I'm all of a sudden the most massively confident person in the world. It was this teeny tiny dial that went to the next notch, right? But then I did it again the next day. And then I did it again the next day. And then all of a sudden you got to a point where you're like, oh my God, like, what, isn't that funny that I thought that couldn't work, right? Like it's this, like those little turns of the dial that are everything. But so again, to answer your question, it's like it's not that it is a situation where you honor it and everything changes, of course, and not that you're asking it that way. But again, it's like one step at a time, like honor it, clarity, honor it, clarity. Like it's this little thing that kind of builds onto itself. And like, I know that I use the example all the time, but it's the same kind of thing with my whole like 6 post system, right? For so long, we followed that 6 post system. We would do, 2 gives a day, 2 give and asks, 2 asks. And never in a million years was I like, this is the magic formula that works. And this is the only way anyone's going to make money. Like, this is how you exactly have to post, so on and so forth. It was just like, I got to a point where I was so sick and tired of feeling like I could do more, I could post more, I could say more. I just wanted to have boxes essentially to check off so that I could do my job and then move on with my day, right? And so it just felt like that's just the right move. Like it just felt so like it felt like that honored what I wanted in that moment. And it became magical, right? Because I continued to do it over and over and over again. And then I had the confidence that, again, that works. And that allowed me to be clear about my process and clear about I do things this way and this is how it works, right? But like it began, if that makes sense, with just like an inkling to honor what made sense to me and then to keep doing it. And then again, it's one of those situations where, again, you look back and you're like, oh, like the idea that couldn't work feels laughable, right? But it's still this like everyday, again, process and that turning of the dial, if that makes sense. Michelle said, I love that. Clarity leads to confidence. Honoring yourself facilitates that process and the evidence follows to support your process. So good. It's like, I know that I use like workout examples a lot, not that I'm the expert, but it's like, if we use the example of like, I don't like working out And like, I feel like I have to work out. Everybody tells me I have to lift weights, and everybody tells me I have to go to spin class and whatever, all these things, right? But like, honestly, I don't want to work out. I don't enjoy working out. I just want to take a walk, a longer walk every single morning and every single evening. And I want to walk away like the pounds, whatever it is. I want to feel in better shape that way. That's where you say, fuck all the other rules that everyone's trying to tell me. I just want to walk, and this is how I choose life gets to go for me. This is how I choose it gets to work for me. I get to be somebody who honors the fact that I don't want to torture myself over all the things that I don't want to do. I'm going to stick to walking, right? I'm going to commit to it. And then all of a sudden you're doing it for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a couple pounds fall off, you feel good. And you've been given the evidence and the clarity that like honoring yourself works, right? And it's a very simple analogy, but I really feel like it's the same thing with so much of this, with the business stuff. And of course, with business, we're so much more emotional. We have, bills to pay and, people to pay, all those kind of things. It can feel, it's funny. I'll talk to clients about this a lot where like, I know as an entrepreneur how every single decision we make can feel so big and so heavy because we're afraid to, screw it all up, whatever it is. But then sometimes it's funny to be on the outside where I'm like, you are like obsessing over this, like this detail that like is not life or death. Nobody's going to die here. Right? This doesn't have to be that serious. But again, like I said, but I know in that person's shoes, I get how heavy that feels, right? So it's a beautiful thing to be able to zoom out and see it from the outside. So often that like the shifts that we want to make are not, again, that scary or not that consequential, right? Like it's not that, there are not that many possible catastrophic outcomes here that we have to be in fear of, right? It can just simply work. And the more we can calm the fuck down, right? And just, again, this is what I want to do and I'm going to do it. I feel like the more it all flows and you allow yourself to, again, be in that state of confidence and clarity, and then you keep going, which lends itself to more momentum. Kitty said, I think this is also important. We have to have a plan, but also have to trust ourselves. Right. And like, there have been several times that I have jumped off the cliff, if you will. And I came to realize that like, oh, I did that too quickly and I made a mistake. And looking back on those moments, I can recognize, I would say 99% of those times were because I acted out of fear or like wanting the outcome instead of like, this is actually an aligned thing that I desire to do and that it actually feels good. Because like, again, this is in launching the community, right? It wasn't like, let's do this. And I can't wait to like get all my, $19 payments. Like, not that like, I'm not happy and thrilled and grateful for it, but it's also like not this enormous amount of money that I was like, let's do this for the outcome. It was like, this feels good to me and how I want to operate and in the grand scheme of my business, right? In the grand scheme of how I want to do things, it feels really good to me. So I was able to move from a place of excitement and alignment versus from a place of fear, right? Which again, I see so many people like, let's say freak out about money or have a moment where they just feel like they need the sales, like just for the sake of it, right? For ego's sake. And that's where they won't think out what they're doing and they'll just jump right into it and still be really obsessed with the outcome. And that's I think that creates the issue there. That's what creates the problem, because like quickly minus the planning with being attached to the outcome, it creates some really wonky energy. And that's when, in my experience, again, in my opinion, it doesn't work out as well as we would ideally like for it to. Okay, that is it. That is what I wanted to share with you today. I'm excited to, like I said, I have ideas and I have things that I think I want to do in terms of like segments and like cute little things that we could do, but I'm going to figure that all out as we go. And so I'm excited for you guys, those of you that are in the community, for being here live. I'm excited for you that you are listening. And I'm excited to just bring you all the things and do all the things and share with you as we go here. It feels fun to me and I hope it feels fun to you. And I'm excited to chat with you soon. All right? I'll talk to you next episode. Bye.